Hi, everyone. Welcome. I do a lot of presenting and teaching, but I was more nervous about this than I usually am. So thanks for being here. As Dan mentioned, I'm Luke Stein from the finance department. And before I talk with you for a few minutes about how I like to get my students to introduce themselves on the first day of class, I thought it fair if I took a moment to introduce myself for a minute. So I'm Luke Stein. I grew up in New York City. I lived there the first 18 years of my life. My parents still live in New York, and I get to go back and see them, which is fun. I did an undergraduate degree in applied mathematics at Harvard, and then I worked at a management consulting firm called Bain & Company for a few years. I started back in New York at Bain, where I'd grown up, but then I spent some time in Tokyo, Japan, which is where I got engaged, and then moved back from Japan to the US to start a PhD in economics at Stanford, after also spending some time working at the New York City Department of Education. If you see my car in the Apache parking garage, it's the one that has the nerdiest linear regression themed vanity plate. So I'm easy to spot. And let me see. So one other thing, before I came to ASU, I spent 5 years working as a volunteer emergency medical technician on an ambulance in California while I was doing my PhD. So anyway, that's just a little bit about me. So generally, my first day of class, I ask all of my students to introduce themselves, and I'd aim to get through 40 to 50 students in the first 45 minutes of an hour and 15-minute class. That gives me half an hour to talk through the syllabus. And I would ask them to tell me 4 things. That would be their name, some idea about where they're from, which I let them define the way they want to, the department that they're majoring in, although here I might say the department you work in, and then one other thing about themselves or about yourself. So, you know, like I said, 45 and 45 minutes. Here we've got like 100 people plus the overflow room to get through in 3 more minutes. So we should get started. So I mentioned I used to work in Japan. Curious, has anyone here ever lived in Japan? Hi, who are you?
Right. So I'm Sonia Bilore, and I'm actually visiting ASU from Sweden. So this is my first interaction.
Welcome, Sonia. I'm so glad to have you here. It's great you're here. So let's see. We got Sweden. Sweden's up there somewhere.
Yes.
I don't have a pointer. Where are you living here?
I'm living here in Mesa.
Okay. So some people may not know where Mesa is. That's out in the East Valley. It's that blue one. Maybe one other thing about yourself, Sonia.
One other thing.
It doesn't have to be interesting. It doesn't even have to be unique. Just one thing.
I like singing.
You like singing?
But I'm not singing today.
Yeah, you've got a microphone in your hand. Thank you, Sonia. I'm curious, does anyone else like singing? We got another singer. Who are you?
My name is Matt Sofa.
Hi, Matt. Where do you work?
I work here in the Department of
Sorry, I knew you worked
Fair enough.
in information systems.
I like it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's on there. So.
And where are you from, Matt?
All over. I've lived all over the continental United States, at least. But
I was going to say, conveniently enough.
Yes, right. Yes,
yeah.
It's the big green one over on the left there.
Okay.
Not Alaska. Well, part of Alaska, I suppose. I live in Gilbert right now.
Okay.
So.
And maybe like one other thing about yourself, not that you like singing.
I do like to sing.
Yeah, but we know that already.
I have a Bachelor of Music degree, actually, in vocal performance.
Really?
So, yeah. And I will not sing for you right now, no. If you're good at something, never do it for free.
Okay.
Am I here?
Thank you. Thanks, Matt. Does anyone else have a degree in a field very distant from business? Like a super non-businessy field? Does anyone else have a bachelor's degree? Okay, we're going to move. Okay, So let me tell you about the idea behind the chain method of self-introduction. 3 goals here. One is getting students engaged on the first day of class, making them feel like folks in the room know who they are and care about them, and that the class ultimately is going to be about them and not just about the content we're seeking to convey. The second thing is about forming a connection with students, and that means both between the instructor and the students in the room, but also helping students identify things they have in common with other people in the room and using those points of connection as an entertaining way to try to move from one student to another while doing those introductions. And then finally, setting norms about what it means to participate in the classroom, the kind of voice people can use, and the fact that they should expect that you as the instructor, I'm going to be listening to what you have to say, okay? So 4 quick notes in the 2 minutes, 1 minute that I have to get through them. First thing, practice your own self-introduction. Have an idea what you're going to say. If you feel comfortable, it's going to help students feel comfortable speaking. Secondly, I didn't have much time to do it today, but I would actually spend some more time talking about kind of the ground rules. You get to choose what your name is and what you want to be called. It's not necessarily what's on my roster, but I bring this and I take notes on what people say. Some people have complicated stories about where they're from, and that's fine, but I encourage them to just think about a pithy description of where they'd say they're from. And then we do spend some time talking about what kinds of additional things are appropriate things for your college professor to have in mind and even take notes on, so they help remember you 4 years later when you ask for a letter of recommendation and have to say, oh, hey, Professor Stein, remember me. I'm the guy who, think about what you want being on that blank. I make an effort to listen to students and to respond to what they say, and that, again, sets a norm about what the tone is going to be for class discussion over the course of the rest of the semester. I do take notes. They're pretty pithy, and then I tend to go back, and after that first day of class, I try to refine those so that I have something that I can use to help me memorize students' names, and I try to refer back over the course of these sequenced introductions to things that came up earlier in the classroom, both in order to show students that I was listening, but also in order to help solidify my memory and to get students listening to each other and not just to me. Finally, practice using points of commonality, okay? Nobody's ever lived in Japan. Has anyone ever lived in Asia? Has anyone ever lived outside the United States? We can do that with geography. The interesting things can be very, very narrow, or they can be very, very broad. Does anyone else have a music degree? Does anyone else have a bachelor's degree? Does anyone else live on Earth? You can make reference to students' names. Does anyone else have a name that starts with C? Is anyone else wearing a shirt? Is anyone else sitting in the first row? So you can get away with a certain amount of that for comic effect, but also in order to ensure that within the time of your class, you haven't left anybody unmentioned. That's where I'm going to end up. These slides are obviously available online, and as you can tell, I like to get to meet people, so I would look forward to getting to meet more people, even if it's not going to happen in the next 2 seconds. Thanks, guys.